Last night, you spent 2 hours deciding what to wear to the party. This morning, it'll take you 2 minutes to list it on Depop and make your money back. Just grab your phone, snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. The sheer dress and platform heels you'll never wear again? There's a birthday girl searching for them right now. Your one and done look is about to pay for your next night out. Or at least the ride home. Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
Now's the time to save on new carpet at the Home Depot. Receive 10% off your total carpet project and 12 months special financing. Plus, we'll measure your space for free. Choose from a variety of stylish, on-trend options fit for everyday life. With LifeProof with pet-proof technology, Home Decorators Collection, and Traffic Master carpets. Save 10% and get 12 months special financing now at the Home Depot. Offer valid April 16th through May 3rd, 2026. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs. So you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back to Unscripted. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie. She's a pop icon, a performer like no other, and probably one of the most resilient women in entertainment. But let's not pretend we didn't all watch as the world, which includes the media, the industry, maybe even her own family, chewed her up and cashed her out. From the Mickey Mouse Club to shaved heads and courtrooms, her story is equal parts glamorous, scandal, and survival. You already know who I'm talking about. None other than Miss Britney Jean Spears.
This is a big one for me because Britney was actually my first concert ever when I was like 12. And then I also saw her at other stages of life as well. I saw her for the Oops tour. I saw her for the Circus tour. And then I saw her in Vegas in 2015.
For her residency?
For her residency. And so I feel like I've not only seen her in different stages, not only of my life, but of her life and her career as well.
Absolutely. You've seen her from the beginnings all the way until right before the end of the conservatorship, it sounds like. So you probably got a bunch of different versions of Britney.
They were very different versions. The Vegas residency versus Oops. You could really tell the difference. And of course, even Circus, because Circus was like 2007, 8, 9, something like that.
Towards the end.
It was around a little bit after the breakdown that I'm sure we will get to. But what's really incredible about Britney is, she was on Broadway before even the Mickey Mouse Club. So she's had this long, long career. I'm pretty sure she's been working since she was like 8.
Sort of like Lindsay Lohan. This is a girl who has been nonstop all of her life.
Nonstop all of her life, just from a little town in Louisiana. But they made it work. Not an Nepo baby by any means either.
No, they made it work, though, because they could see the talent. She oozes talent, and that's something that was evident as a young child.
And that's even mentioned in the 2021 documentary about Britney. That documentary is primarily about the conservatorship, but they talk about that. Like, I forget the exact words that they use. I should have written them down, but it's this like sparkle, this like demand for the spotlight that she just exuded naturally. What's interesting to me with Britney's voice is that you hear this like powerful, almost kind of deeper, much like when we spoke about Paris Hilton last week, kind of deeper natural voice to when we have this kind of like also Marilyn Monroe-esque type higher pitch, like move to a higher registry by the time we get to like Baby One More Time. And it might not be extra high, but she's clearly kind of playing with how the sound comes out versus what it might be naturally or more comfortable for her. There are some rumors that she's actually kind of damaged her vocal cords a little bit from doing. Everybody knows what Britney does. I'm not even going to like do an example of it because everybody knows what
you
that.
Mean you don't want to?
You know who can is actually Ariana Grande, and it is
she can do a ton of impressions.
So many. We might have to do a deep dive on her someday too. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. She'd be fun because she's another very, very interesting one when you kind of see from start to finish. But back to our main girl for this episode, Brit. It's interesting to see that she also, around the same time as Paris, took on this kind of, we're going to call it the Marilyn Monroe effect, I think, for the rest of this type of series. Like when we do deep dives of celebs who have kind of brought this into their fame. And I almost feel like that was probably a bit of a wall too. I think this is a theater girl who wound up on Mickey Mouse Club and then within probably 5 years was getting a record deal and had to listen to people about what was going to make her famous in, you know, the late 90s and early 2000s, which was very poppy, very girl band, boy band, all of those types of things. So yeah, she was kind of like a one girl band, if you think about it, like a one party girl band.
She was a superstar who didn't need other people to lean on. She was enough. She's a spectacle on her own.
She was a spectacle is the perfect thing to call her. And I think that this is why she didn't wind up in a girl group. She was actually initially part of this girl group called Innocence. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who was in that band or like anything like that. And it's just hard to make it, right? And there was just like a lot of competition. So I gotta say though, we don't know them. We don't know who they are. We don't know Innocence. I couldn't even name like a song or whatever. So clearly it didn't necessarily work out with that girl group for whatever the reasons were. So it kind of worked out for Britney that she ended up going solo because I'm with you. She was a spectacle. She was somebody that you didn't necessarily want. I don't know if I sound creepy saying this, but you didn't really necessarily want her light, like shrouded by or shaded, I guess is a better word if I'm going to say light, but like you wanted to just like watch her perform. She was an incredible dancer. I do say was. I know she still loves dancing on Instagram, but it's not quite what it used to be. I would be the same. So I say that with no shade, but she was in her heyday such an incredible dancer and performer.
She's a performer.
And yeah, you couldn't match that with a girl group, I don't think, which is clearly why it probably didn't work out.
She's definitely enough on her own. And I think that is something that everyone hopes when they are a member of a girl group, but it isn't always necessarily true. Not all of those members can stand on their own. And I'm thinking of people like in the Spice Girls. I love the Spice Girls, but could all of them stand on their own? Probably not. Maybe even another example would be like Danny DeCane. Could all of those members stand on their own? Probably not. Can Britney? Hell yeah. Honestly, she is better off on her own because she's able to dominate on the dance floor, dominate on the music charts. She doesn't need anyone else shrouding her light, like you just said.
That's such an interesting point that I never really thought about. Like maybe that's kind of where because it's around the same time as Britney, I feel like this is relevant. Why there's this difference between like these like superstar solo acts versus the groups, because these groups are grouped together because there's a certain interest from all of them that makes it work together to pull out that fame that clearly people behind the group are looking for and those in the group want. But could they stand on their own? Is that the reason why they work better together? Because really, there's usually only like one or two that end up going solo, and maybe only one of those is super successful. I'm looking at you, Justin Timberlake.
That's literally who I was thinking of. And you have to think too, as we're talking about all of this, it's so true because usually in a group, so let's use NSYNC. I was a big NSYNC fan. You just brought up Justin Timberlake, who was the solo act to be successful coming out of NSYNC. You have 5 members. So there's Justin, JC, Chris, Joey, maybe who did I miss?
Lance.
Oh, sorry, Lance. So there's 5 members and each of them brought something a little bit different, right? You know, JC was the angelic voice, but he didn't have the star power that Justin had. Chris also had a good voice, but he didn't necessarily have the looks. And I'm not saying he's unattractive, but he didn't have the star quality that maybe Justin had.
He's been spotted in my hometown before, by the way. I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, a member of NSYNC in this rinky-dink little town. Okay.
I've been seeing that he toured throughout the summer singing boy band songs. So he's definitely very, very much talented. It's just he didn't have the it factor, I guess, even though he's the one that started the band. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into NSYNC lore, but you know what I mean? Like Britney had it all. Yeah. She didn't need someone to have the looks and someone to have the voice and someone to have the dancing skills and someone to have the it factor. She had it all. She was the complete package.
She was a complete package and she was willing to work. That's another thing that's been mentioned about Britney that I think honestly gets overlooked. I'm probably going to say this about so many people we deep dive on because it's part of our interest of them is how hard of a worker she was. You're not on Broadway at like 8 years old or becoming an absolute sensation, quote, overnight, even though it was never overnight.
It's never overnight, yeah.
Always 10 years in the making, right? You don't get that without hard work. We even learned this a little bit ourselves, having a podcast that's nowhere near as famous as Britney or as big of a reach as Britney had. And we realize if we're not out there on TikTok, etc., that like, you know, we're not growing and thriving as much. So, and that's a lot of work that I think people also underestimate how much work it actually kind of can be, even if we love doing it. So it's that same thing. Like you don't just get famous because you were granted all this luck. It takes a lot of luck. This is also said about Britney, is it took a lot of luck, but it took a lot of hard work. And that's sort of how they framed it when they were talking about what a hard worker she was and what she was willing to do. I mean, again, the dancing and singing at the same time, unbelievable. And she probably did often have backing tracks, but she often did sing too. Like she really could sing regardless. Like those are her vocals on the album. It's not like a ghost singer, which by the way, there are plenty of those out there in case anybody was curious.
Cough, J-Lo, cough. So speaking of Britney's child star origins, we mentioned the Star Search appearance where she does showcase her deeper register. That's her natural tone. And then we know that she eventually made it onto the Mickey Mouse Club. That whole era was from like 92 to 94. And that's when she was cast alongside people like Justin Timberlake, like Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling, Kerry Russell. That group, that 92 to 94 group of Mickey Mouse Club really churned out star after star after star. And it's...
Yeah. Can I name some? Because it's fascinating to me. Yeah. We have Ryan Gosling from Mickey Mouse Club. We have Justin Timberlake. We have Britney Spears. We have Christina Aguilera, JC Chazé.
Yes.
Probably more that I'm not thinking of. Kerry Russell. Probably more. Like a lot of them went on to have pretty successful careers.
And you know who almost was in this group of Mickey Mouse Club? Jessica Simpson. She talks about it in her memoir. We will be deep diving her later.
That's going to be a great one.
That is on the agenda. But yeah, she does talk about how she was a runner-up, basically, to be cast alongside all of these people. So she was always almost a part of this group. But I guess that just goes to show that you don't necessarily need to be a member of the Mickey Mouse Club to make it. But at least for Britney, it really helped her have that early breakthrough and get those eyes on her.
Oh, yeah. It was a complete resume builder for her because not only was it constant practice of her craft, the singing, the dancing, the acting, all of the things that went into being part of the Mickey Mouse Club, it also just kind of got eyes on her, right? Like outside of just being something where she was constantly practicing. It was something that people who were interested in finding talent could see and see weekly in multiple different facets. I mean, you couldn't find something better. It was like a weekly audition for
Well,
future roles and her future career.
and I think we also can't underestimate how much the connections she was making are important. You sort of touched on it right there,
Mm-hmm.
but this is when she really became close to Justin Timberlake and JC Chazé. And we know they were famously represented by Lou Pearlman. Well, Lou Pearlman is the manager she negotiated with when she joined that female pop group Innocence. And so
Mm-hmm.
she is making these connections in the industry. And even though Innocence fell through,
Mm-hmm.
she got the attention of that record company, and that eventually led its way to her getting her own music career started. So every step of the way, those connections she made from Mickey Mouse Club to the ones she kept after that really helped get her to launching this solo career that really took her into the stratosphere.
What I think is kind of cute is around this time, her mom actually asked I believe, pretty well-known entertainment lawyer, Larry Rudolph, his opinion about what Britney had going on during the time that she was like in Innocence, and submitted a tape of her. And guess who she was singing? Whitney Houston.
Honestly,
So
I
that just
think
gives
people
you
would
an
be
idea
surprised that she
of
can hit those notes.
Britney's abilities.
Mhm.
Right. That's what we froze just a tiny bit, but that's kind of what I was saying of like, that just shows you what her abilities kind of are. Now, listen, anybody can try and sing Whitney, and it doesn't mean that they're good, but this idea that Britney was doing it to show off vocals and Lynn felt that they were good enough to send to Larry Rudolph. Interesting.
You know what this tells me is that the people we're deep diving, the ones who have these enormous careers that are long lasting over decades, they always need someone like Lynn Spears or like
Mm-hmm.
Dina Lohan. They need someone in their corner that isn't afraid of getting told no
Right.
and putting their child out there. And look, you can call them momagers, but like even Kris Jenner, she would be another person putting her kids out there. You need someone like those moms to be a momager and get their kids in front of the right people.
I agree. And because what's that phrase? No just means not yet, or no is there's a phrase about no, but it spins it in like a
I know what yes. You're
I for someone put it in the comments on Spotify for me because I'm totally blanking now, but there's this phrase of no kind of means not yet, basically. And if Lynn hadn't done that, then Larry would have never pitched her to other record labels where she was actually kind of rejected because they're like, no, we need these groups, these group bands. There's never going to be another. I'm literally reading something right now to refresh my memory, but they were referencing Madonna, Tiffany, Debbie Gibson, all of who, maybe besides Madonna, Britney was bigger than. I think she was at like a level of Madonna, but.
or she eventually got to be bigger than.
Right.
You know, this also reminds me of a saying that my mom says a lot is it all depends on who you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if Lynn didn't have that connection or that friendship with Larry Rudolph, would she have been able to submit a tape of Britney singing a Whitney Houston song? Would she have been able to get her in front of all these different studios where she was rejected initially, but it eventually worked out? So
yes,
there's a little bit of that. No means just not now, and it all depends on who you know. So a little bit of both.
Yeah. I mean, was she an extreme Nepo baby? No, she was growing up in the Bible Belt. But this connection got them further connections, which possibly got them further connections or more opportunities later. And that does make a difference. And I think if we all look back at things that have worked out positively in our life, it's so easy to look at them and go, oh man, like if I never did that, or if I never knew them, then this wouldn't have worked out. So it's always that like, and it's perfect timing. But with Britney, there's this dark side of it because of what we know is coming after we get out of the earlier 2000s when she blows up into fame, does Baby One More Time, does Oops, probably does Britney and In the Zone before the full breakdown.
Mhm.
And we learn in her memoir why. So we're working up towards that. So stick with us.
So let's talk about that massive debut she had. There's that provocative image that she becomes known for, the schoolgirl uniform. She debuts this baby voice, and it's really different from what we had seen in the earlier days of her showbiz career
Mhm.
on the
Mhm.
Mickey Mouse Club and Star Search. She's definitely found a way to appear innocent, but also sexualized. And there's this dichotomy with that image.
Is that dichotomy. And what I think is interesting here as well, when they are debuting Britney, I'll never forget the first time I saw her music video on TRL,
Mhm.
which was for Baby One More Time. She's in the kind of scantily clad, if you will, Catholic schoolgirl outfit, like school uniform outfit
With the pigtails and
with the
the fluffy
pigtails.
pink scrunchies or whatever they're called.
Is that not the exact picture of what you're talking about? This dichotomy of young versus sexy versus like, I'm old, but I'm not, kind of like teasing the whole idea of sex sells, right?
Right.
But what's also kind of interesting is like they toured her kind of 80s style around malls, like when she was first coming out, which is so interesting to me. And I believe she also opened for NSYNC, but I could be wrong.
No, she did.
Okay, because Jessica Simpson also opened for 98 Degrees. So
And
it's like there's
What do
so
you
much
know?
of this kind of
They
stuff going
both
on.
ended up dating members of those boy bands.
What do you know? And both being the main members that have that it factor enough to go solo and have a bit of a successful solo career,
And I
which
think that probably just happens when you're hot, talented, and in close quarters.
and young, yeah.
And yeah, why not?
Why not? And especially if we have Britney sort of showcasing this sexy schoolgirl kind of act, if you will. Like, of course, there's going to be all this like charged energy with any of these other groups and whatnot that she's around.
Well, and if you think about it too, though, this schoolgirl innocence but sexy at the same
Mhm.
time is really an impossible standard that the media or the label company put on her.
Yeah.
And that was an image she would never be able to uphold despite all of her success, despite, presenting this way. So when she started dating Justin Timberlake, they become this teen power couple. They're beloved by fans. They really are media darlings. They're tabloid fodder. They're constantly being photographed. And when that relationship crumbles, it really turns toxic. And we see again what we talked about in the Paris Hilton deep dive, that early 2000s misogyny, where when Justin comes out with his hit Crimea River, he implies I don't even know if you could say implies, he like almost directly says Britney cheated. And that's when the public shaming starts. Britney's
Yep.
blamed. She's branded as a heartbreaker, a cheat, and no one bothers to get her side of the story. No one bothers to say, well, what's the whole picture? Instead, they're looking at this girl who was dressed as a scantily clad schoolgirl and says, well, she's not a virgin anymore. Do you remember that was like a really big thing, which was always a little icky to me. That was also a big thing with Jessica
Mhm.
Simpson as well.
Yeah. Yep. It's so gross. And that's such a personal decision. It was this weird thing of the time, though, that besides Christina Aguilera, all of these girls, like Jessica
These
Simpson, like
teen pop
Britney,
idols.
these teen pop idols that there were many of, but the biggest of them being Britney, Christina, and Jessica, they almost like had to come out and say it. They were almost forced to say that they were a virgin instead of
You know
being
what?
able to choose if they even talk about it.
They were forced to talk about it because in almost every single interview that they had, they were asked about
Mhm.
whether or not they were a virgin or, the virginity status, which is really icky. And we do see that now when we watch back on clips of them in interviews. You
Mhm.
can see these questions and hear them. And in real time, you can see their reactions to being asked such an invasive, personal question. But
Mhm.
that was really what the public wanted to know at the time.
It is, especially when she's dating what would be her version of high school sweetheart.
Mhm.
I think what also really played into this is that she was dating what was like her version of a high school sweetheart, or her high school sweetheart, Justin Timberlake. Tons of girls were into NSYNC because of Justin. I mean, obviously it was fun pop music, but they were obsessed with pretty much all of the guys, but many of the fans were like obsessed with Justin. So of course
I
it
was
was
a
easy
JC
to
girl,
demonize her. There were plenty of Lance and JC girls, which is just absolutely hilarious. Remembering and thinking about, like, you had to like pick your boy band,
Yes.
BSB or NSYNC, and who
And
was
then
your
you had
guy.
to pick your member. Like I wore
Yeah.
a JC Chazé t-shirt to bed. And it was like my mom had bought me a JC one, and she bought my sister a Lance one, and they were huge, and we would just sleep in them. And I definitely would not let my sister have JC as well. She had to pick like Justin or Lance, and no one ever really picked Chris or Joey, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that there isn't love there for them. I just don't know anyone
there
in person.
totally was. Loved and appreciated them, but we'll have to do a whole deep dive on
Mhm.
BSB versus NSYNC. But I feel like at this time where we're very early 2000s, right? So we've gone from like 98, 99 when she released Baby One More Time and then the full Baby One More Time album, to when she's breaking up with Justin, like 2000, like what, one?
Yeah, I think that's the timeline. So you mentioned something, and I kind of want to back up a little bit just because it started to get me thinking, got the wheels moving in my head. So we were talking a little bit about the innocence and virginity dialogue surrounding Britney at the time. We were talking about the breakup and the toxicity between Justin and Britney when all of that came out, right? And it sort of got me thinking, it got the wheels turning about, even though the blame was placed solely on Britney at the time, and Justin escaped unscathed. He eventually did get his comeuppance about 20 years later. Right, but he still
21.
got it. And now
Yep,
he's
he
being
got it.
dogged on the internet every chance they get. But I think we failed to acknowledge that moment in Britney's career and personal life, because really both were really intertwined. Her personal and public life were basically whatever was happening in either, we were finding out about in the tabloids. I don't think we give it enough credit for allowing her to go beyond that schoolgirl uniform era of Britney. If that hadn't happened, the Crimea River moment, would we have been able to see her as the public, as the media, as something more than a young schoolgirl? Do you know what I mean? Like, after that, she became the girl who wore the red
The snake.
patent leather, or red patent vinyl outfit, whatever it's called. You know, that outfit she wears, where she really becomes this icon of sexiness, of sex appeal. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we would have been able to get her to get to that point without this moment.
Right. It's those moments where she's coming into her own and not doing something that was curated by a team any longer. We are learning who Britney is, at least who she wants to project who she is. It's, I want to wear this tight red, like, patent leather suit for this music video, or I want to perform at the VMAs with a freaking snake and sing Slave for You. Like, that's what we're getting in the post breakup era of Britney Spears, which I double checked. I was close. It was March 2002 that the breakup was announced. And then by 2003, we've got her at the VMAs singing with a literal
Twirling
snake.
around the stage with a boa
Twirling
constrictor, an
Yep.
albino boa constrictor around her neck. So I think she had been working her way to growing up her image from the Baby One More Time to dating Justin. And she was growing up before our eyes in that relationship, but she really did. That breakup was a catalyst for launching her into full-blown sex appeal.
Yeah. And we also have this song and this movie that reflect this as well. So we get Crossroads, which is a cult classic, especially for my cousins and I.
Shout out to Shonda Rhimes, who famously wrote it.
Shout out, Shonda, listen.
Girl, we love you.
Any of my feel good, but like soapy drama, like we love you. So Miss Shonda gives us Crossroads. Britney delivers us Crossroads. And then we have I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. And it's like, it's so fitting for this time when she's about 20, let's call
she's
her.
straddling both girlhood and womanhood.
And then going through this massive public breakup, and people were going crazy. This is if you're a little younger than Natalie and I, this is the Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez of the millennial times. Okay, if Gen Z got Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber, who were a little bit older than them, that were like their iconic couple, this is a couple that was a little older than us and was our iconic couple.
Okay, so I don't think we can talk about the breakup without talking about that VMA moment. We talked about a couple with the snake and other very iconic moments, but there's one in particular that happened during the 2003 VMAs between Britney, Madonna, and Christina Aguilera.
Yep.
And I don't think it can be described as anything else other than an iconic pop culture moment, albeit very controversial. So Britney and Christina both sing alongside Madonna, one of Madonna's songs, Like a Virgin. And basically, Britney and Christina are dressed as scantily clad brides, whereas Madonna is in black and representing a groom. Well, Madonna and Britney full on French in front of the camera. And then right away, the camera shoots to Justin Timberlake out in the audience, and his face is aghast. And now, obviously, this is planned because we have footage of them doing the exact same thing during the rehearsals. So it wasn't an impromptu kiss. Everyone knew the kiss was going to happen, but the public didn't. And then Madonna goes to kiss Christina. But at that point, all of the focus is on Britney and Madonna. And I always thought that was really interesting because I feel like Britney got the majority of the heat for this moment. And I don't even know why it was happening because, like, yeah, they kissed. So it was a performance. But it was in all the tabloids. It was all anyone could talk about. And Christina really didn't get any heat for that moment, at least in my recollection.
That has bugged me for 20 plus years as well, because the way you hear about it, the way it's kind of, quote, written for the history books, you wouldn't even know that Christina was there practically.
Do you think
really
that pissed her off? I feel like it must have irritated her.
I think so, because Christina was less like...
It wasn't unexpected coming from Christina. And maybe that's partly
what
why
I'm looking for.
People weren't surprised and didn't talk about it.
Maybe. Right. Because with Britney, this is her. We've always been sold that as like, oh, but I really am a virgin. But this is that period of time where we learn through the breakup that she's not indeed a virgin. And we learn more about that in her 2023 memoir. But then she's kissing Madonna. So we kind of knew this girl was doing the sex sells thing, but we knew it was a Maryland thing. Christina, I'm with you. It was more expected through how she dressed and acted. She never came out and said, I'm a virgin, I'm not. She did the sex sells thing too with a lot of her outfits and everything. But it was, again, more expected. So yeah, maybe it was just more on brand for Christina. And then with Britney, it was more of the like, I'm playing this role vibe. And we might have been subconscious to us. So maybe you're right.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Britney was marketed as like the sweetheart, whereas Christina was marketed as a bad girl. And both roles were exploited by the media, by the record companies. And those roles really ended up having them being pit against each other at this point. There was a feud between, whether it was real or not, I don't know, but at least publicly there was a feud between Christina Aguilera and Britney. And I think this moment at the VMAs didn't help things.
No, I don't think it helped things. At this time, we've got Christina Aguilera's Stripped, which was quite the shocking look, if you will. We're wearing like bikini tops with super low rise pants and little shorts and really singing about some like crazy thing. I mean, again, the album is called Stripped. and the like main single was Dirty. Whereas, right, again, Britney's out there singing Rolling Stones covers and I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. So it's a dichotomy even between them where, oh my gosh, Britney, are you trying to do what I'm doing now? And like, yeah, just they were probably pit against each other via the media as well, I think. And I guarantee you Christina's ego was not happy with this.
And who can blame her? I feel like she really didn't get the amount of attention she deserved for that performance.
Mm-hmm.
They both did a great job. And it is unfortunate that she didn't get the amount of attention that she hoped for in her performance.
Because it was supposed to be this shocking, forever memorable moment that she was a part of, that she probably got paid lots of money to do.
I don't think they get paid. I thought it was like a volunteer basis because you get the attention, you get the eyes on you.
Maybe. I mean, you could be right because like the VMAs need them and they need the VMAs, right? I always talk about this with famous people. If they stop being written about or in the spotlight, they become like not that famous anymore. So, or people kind of not forget about them, but they kind of aren't talked about on the daily anymore. So it's that thing.
It's like a
get to have a
symbiotic
shocking moment
relationship. Yeah. Why do you think the Kardashians still have their reality, and that's in quotes, show? They don't need it. They don't need the money in that sense. They need it to keep them in the public's mind. They need them to be relevant.
Exactly. And I feel like I've said this before, but anytime you see like a quote paparazzi picture and they like look decent, maybe they're like at lunch or they're on a walk or they're riding bikes and they all look decent. The outfit looks kind of cute and put together. And it says that it's via backgrid, they probably got asked to be there. And I do think that that's the symbiotic nature of paparazzi too. Like, yes, they chase celebrities around to get pictures, especially like at this time in Britney's life. A picture of hers was worth several $100,000. But if you set up a scenario where you're also getting your picture taken, they get their picture, they get their money, and you get to stay in the public light. So they kind of work together in that way. There'll always be the sneaky paparazzi pictures, but it's not always the same way. But it's also changed a lot with social media.
It's changed a lot, but we still see celebrities using these tactics or what we call pap walks.
Yep.
We just saw Hilaria Baldwin do one holding a book of hers that she just wrote or something, where it's very clearly a pap walk because she's holding it, the book in such an uncomfortable, unnatural angle. So you can see the cover as she walks full makeup, full hair across the street in New York. It's just, some of them are so outright obvious and others are a little bit more believable.
That woman could use a deep dive of her own almost.
We probably should do one. Man, we're going to, our list keeps growing.
We just want to do all the deep dives. Please comment any deep dives you are interested in because there are some fascinating things about any one human's lives. So you add fame and celebrity to that, and it is just, to at least Natalie and I, absolutely fascinating. But so there's just so much going on with Britney. The life changes. We've got, this media pit against Justin and Christina, and this shocking moment that really was like, it stopped the world for a minute, or at least like here in the US, I should say. I shouldn't call it like the whole world, but like it was a shock to the pop culture world. It was like, oh my gosh.
We could sort of look at it as the beginning of her rebellion.
Yeah. And as we get towards the memoir from 2023, we start to understand why this unraveling happened. But let us continue down the path with this unraveling. So after this 2003 moment, we then get another album a little bit later on, In the Zone. I feel like that was like 2004-ish.
Late 2003.
Late 2003. Close. Lovely album. But a little bit of a different album than her previous ones. We're not singing I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman.
No, it was more of a dance.
Yeah, it was clubby. we're going to go to the club and get drunk with Britney. Hey, like that's one of my favorite songs on that album. And so, she's got like, who was on that album with her? Was it the Yin Yang Twins? Like, we're getting a little bit of hip hop influence there, a little bit, and kind of modernizing to what the mid 2000s were versus the sugar pop of late 90s and very early 2000s.
Well, and she had a collab with Madonna on the record, Me Against the Music. And that was also where she recreated that kiss with Madonna as well.
Yes. And that could be also why in the history books, it is also much more about those two, because it was also said that that was Madonna passing the torch.
Passing the baton. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Passing the torch, passing the baton, whatever you want to call it. That was Madonna saying, go get him.
As we're talking about Madonna passing the baton, she's always been referenced. And then eventually Britney acquired the title as the Princess of Pop, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking about this the other day as we were talking about covering Britney, is we have Michael Jackson called the King of Pop. There is no Queen of Pop. I've never heard of anyone called the Queen of Pop. Why is she called the Princess of Pop? Is she not allowed to be the queen?
And we always call them the pop princess. Like, right. she was, or she is a pop princess.
Versus
it's like,
the king who is in complete control of the monarchy and then probably has a daughter who would be the princess. I don't know. That's just something to think about. We don't need to.
It is. It's just something to point out. When we're talking about pop culture, you can't ignore that verbiage. And it's not always intentional. It's a very subconscious part of society that people don't realize that kind of does discredit women just a little bit. Just a little bit. Not on purpose.
I mean, we could think that
some people it's on purpose, but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. we could say it's in reference to her age. She was a very young, up and coming artist, so the Princess of Pop. That makes sense. But it just was interesting as I was looking into a little bit more of the details to refresh my memory on everything that happened 20 something years ago.
Yeah. And it feels like yesterday, but also feels like a lifetime ago. I feel like so much has changed in society and in pop culture since all of this. But, Britney's life, we've already kind of referenced this, is changing really fast. And so is her career a little bit. So after In the Zone, there's a little bit of a break. And this is when we kind of get into the continued unraveling. Another iconic moment in Britney's life happens in January of 2004, where she ends up in Vegas. And this is so Britney coded now, but it was not Britney coded back then. You did not expect this.
It broke the internet before Kim Kardashian's butt broke the internet with that magazine cover.
Absolutely. And so here's what broke the internet, everybody. She married her high school friend for 55 hours, whose name is Jason. Don't really know what was going on that night other than they were just having a good time. They end up at the iconic Vegas venue, if you will, the Little White Wedding Chapel, or A Little White Wedding Chapel, it's called, which again is like an iconic spot, partially because of this for our generation, but it's been an iconic venue for getting married in Vegas for a while. So then after 55 hours, it just gets annulled. And she just stated that she lacked understanding of her actions. So this is a first indicator of like, what is Britney on? What is she doing? What is lacked understanding of her actions? What is a 55-hour marriage? Which, by the way, is like 20 hours less than Kim Kardashian's famous marriage with Chris Humphries.
So that marriage may not have lasted with Jason Alexander, which is her childhood friend's name that she married. But we did get that really memorable image of her and him standing outside of the wedding chapel. She's wearing these super, super low-rise denim and a trucker hat. And you can't get any more early 2000s than that. So regardless of the marriage not lasting, we will always have that image of her with her first marriage and first husband in Vegas.
I mean, was the hat Von Dutch?
Probably. I have to look at it.
Von Dutch at least made trucker hats super like fashionable and like trendy at the time.
They may have been one of the brands that did, but I feel like Ashton Kutcher really was the person that made it a trademark of.
And different brands started releasing their own trucker hats, both clothing brands as well as like merch for other brands. So it might not have been Von Dutch, but I did think that was funny to ask because it very well could have been, because Von Dutch was kind of like,
oh, you know, I walked around with a Von Dutch belt buckle and hats and yeah. What a time to be alive.
I thought I was so cool in my Von Dutch Uggs because they weren't Uggs and they were Von Dutch. So it was like slightly different, but still trendy and like expensive cool, which this is pre 2008 recession. So like expensive meant cool at this time. And it took a lot of money to look as trashy as we all did in the like early-ish mid 2000s.
Oh, you know, when you would wear like ripped denim, I had a few times where my dad looked at my, like, I think I was wearing a jean skirt. It was at Easter. And he said, I will give you money to go buy a skirt. Why are you wearing a torn up like outfit? And I said, no, like I bought it like this. And he like it did not compute.
Wasn't that the joke ever? But like I always told the boomers, because I recognized it, like we're copying the 70s. Like, what do you even mean? Like little
this is your time.
Tops. Yeah. Little halter tops with ripped jeans. I don't know that the 70s would have been low rise and they weren't
not
always
as low rise
flared.
As the
they
2000s.
were at least, right. They were not. I don't think pants have ever been that low rise
and
before or after.
Again.
They never will be again because nobody wants to see our booty cracks at like just standing.
I mean, you couldn't even have pubes with how low these pants were. I think some pants had like 1.5 inch zippers.
And picture this. And honestly, you probably don't have to try too hard to picture it because I'm pretty sure we have all been here, but you're tired, it's midweek, you're hungry, it's getting late, and you're trying to figure out what the heck's for dinner. You have no idea what that is, but what you do know is that you want a home-cooked meal. This is where HelloFresh comes in, because HelloFresh makes cooking, honestly, a little too easy. You get to choose from 80 plus meals every month with flavors from around the world, including Vietnamese, Moroccan, Caribbean, you name it, HelloFresh has got it. What I also love about HelloFresh is that they might be introducing you to an ingredient that you haven't worked with before, but that ingredient, like everything else for your HelloFresh meal, is going to be pre-portioned, ready to go for your cooking experience. Honestly, at this point, I have made so many HelloFresh meals in my day, I probably couldn't pick a favorite, but I'm telling you, anything with their chicken is solid. There's something extra special about their chicken. I love their Frank's Red Hot chicken recipe. I made their chicken pot pie casserole the other night. We loved it. You just can't go wrong with HelloFresh. I am telling you right now. Go to HelloFresh.com/diaries10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free NutriBullet Ultra Plus 2-in-1 compact kitchen system, which is a $189.99 value on your third box. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Disclaimer, must order the third box by May 31st, 2026.
Britney was a part of this. I mean, this is what she's wearing at this time. I mean, we're looking to her and you've got like, again, midriff showing, halter tops with jeans that were to your crotch. Absolutely. And we should have realized that she was having an unraveling when we copied her doing this. But you know what? So was Paris. So was everybody, normal people, celebrities. These pants just were an inch long, like you said. But so we have this marriage, and then we go to 2004, slightly after. Well, that was early 2004. And then by the end of 2004, she was already touring for In the Zone, which actually that started in March. So not even that long after. I'm double checking my dates here. So she's touring. She goes through that. Something's clearly wrong with her making these decisions. And then she starts touring. I think that was probably very detrimental to her mental and physical health. Like she was not ready to tour if she's having 55-hour marriages.
Well, and then
at 23,
she does get physically injured during this tour. She hurts her knee while filming one of the music videos, and then is on the injured list for a few weeks after that, has to wear a knee brace, a thigh brace. Then a few months after that, she's all of a sudden engaged to none other than Kevin Federline, her backup dancer and someone we eventually come to know as K-Fed, at least in the tabloids.
Thank you for that reminder that we called him K-Fed. She had only met him 3 months before that, which was, like you mentioned, because he was backup dancer. So this all tracks. She starts touring. She meets him.
Well, she gets injured, so she has a lot more time on her hands because she can't dance. Get cozy with K-Fed.
Yeah.
In those couple of months as she's recouping. And they get engaged, eventually get married. And he's really looked at as an opportunist. The media does not like him. And it's made to look as Britney making an unstable choice as well.
Right. And he had only also recently broken up with an actress, Shar Jackson, who is known for her role on the iconic 90s sitcom Moesha. So I think he had his own history that people were judging or thinking about. And he does have children with her. They're about to have their second kid. So it was as chaotic as their first reality show was called, Britney and Kevin Chaotic.
Well, that's what I was going to say is I believe, if my memory serves me, that there was a little bit of overlap between the relationships with Shar Jackson and Britney Spears from what I recall. And, this is a girl who would stand in line at the grocery store with her mom and look through all the tabloid magazines. But if I recall correctly, Shar was pregnant at the time that K-Fed and Britney got together and engaged and eventually married. So
she was pregnant with their second kid. So at a minimum, it was very close together, whether or not there was any overlap.
I mean, that guy was sowing his seed fast. I mean, they had kids in quick succession. It wasn't long before Britney was pregnant by him as well.
That's right. But let's not forget the chaotic era.
Oh, okay.
So chaotic started in May of 2005.
And you're referencing their TV show titled Chaotic.
Yes. Their reality show Chaotic, which is also kind of a cult classic still today. But it's kind of sad to me because it is showcasing kind of what you're saying, like this guy who maybe he's an opportunist and maybe he's not. This relationship is a little messy. There's a lot of questions surrounding it. And in May of 2005, we get this reality TV show that kind of highlights their relationship.
Well, and we get a peek behind the curtain, like you're saying, and we start to see some erratic behavior from Britney. We see that things aren't as polished as we would assume.
Well, she calls it the worst thing I've done in my life, that's a huge statement.
It is, especially considering where she was in her life at that time. It was supposed to be a happy moment. She was newly married with who we thought was the love of her life. She really was doing a lot of favors for K-Fed at the time, though, because, I mean, he really wasn't working beyond being a backup dancer when she met him. I don't think he continued working. The public didn't like him because he was jumping from a relationship to relationship. He left his pregnant ex-wife or ex-girlfriend. And this was an attempt, at least I believe, in Britney's part, to rehab K-Fed's image, and it didn't help. Instead, it made her look worse.
I mean, there were red flags even before Chaotic because their marriage wasn't even like completely settled until like 3 weeks later. They got married in September 2004. And then on October 6th, it was finalized. But this is because of a prenuptial agreement that they were working on. And listen, I don't know a ton about prenuptial agreements, but it's my understanding, like normally that's taken care of like before you're married and like all those loose ends are done before, hence prenuptial. So it kind of makes me wonder, right, like why did it take so long? Were there arguments in what could be there? Or was it just a chaotic nature and taking a long time to do important things like that? Like, I don't know, but it doesn't really like look good from the onset. And then we get Chaotic where it didn't help us love the relationship anymore. And if we're looking at like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, who each fans are kind of like falling in love with the other person because they love this person they've been following so much, especially Swifties for Travis. That did not happen. Like the opposite happened with this. We didn't like K-Fed. It kind of made us lose a little trust in Britney, in all honesty. This is kind of when I lost a little trust in her. I wasn't following her as much.
And I think what we see with Taylor and Travis now is much more of a business deal, even though it is a real relationship. And I think those newer relationships that we're seeing in the public eye now have learned from the likes of Britney Spears and what happened and how the public can turn on a dime when they see a beloved superstar, a beloved icon, pop icon, matched with someone that we don't approve of. It also taints their image as well.
I am so in awe of what you just said because I, as always, could not have said it any better. These people that came out 10 years after Britney and all of these things going on, they grew up watching that.
Yeah.
And their PR people were starting their careers or, in the middle of careers when they watched that. So you don't think Tree Payne knew what she was doing for Travis and Taylor and being very curated and careful with everything? Of course, because this is what happens oftentimes when, you have these types of big personalities making decisions that get a little crazy. But again, and we're going to get to it, there was a lot more behind why Britney was searching for something and suffering with clearly some mental health issues here and making erratic, chaotic moves in her life. But I will say, all those chaotic moments brought us Blackout, for sure. That is like the chaos album.
Yeah. And you can tell when you watch those music videos, you can tell that Britney didn't want to sit in the hair chair because her hair was usually half done. You can tell that they used some sort of AI before there was AI, maybe Photoshop in a lot of the dancing montages. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of where she's doing her iconic spinning move. And it just looks like her head was like photoshopped onto someone else's body at some moments. I'll have to show it to you. I'm sure people listening know exactly the moment I'm talking about.
You have to send it to me because, I'm like blanking, but I'm like just cracking up because, right, it's like AI before AI was like a thing, at least for like public use.
But I don't want to go too far because I love Blackout as an album, but we can't talk about her unraveling and how everything that happened to get her to where she was under a conservatorship if we don't talk about two very important lives that she brought into this world. She had Sean Preston in 2005 and she had Jaden James in 2006. But there has been a dialogue surrounding this unraveling that I just mentioned being started or initiated by some sort of postpartum depression.
That's what I was just going to say, that with everything that we learn in the memoir, which again, we're going to get more specific. We just got to kind of keep going along. It makes sense why these two little lives being brought into the world, while they are not responsible for it, were directly connected to things that affected her mentally. So I could absolutely see postpartum being a thing, at least not proper postpartum care given to her, because then we get launched into a divorce that was finalized by July of 2007, right before Blackout was released. So all of these things are kind of in a quick succession. So they all go together. And that's kind of why I brought up Blackout a little bit before, because I wanted to kind of do that tiny rewind to show like, this is why we get Blackout.
This is the product of that chaos that she was experiencing, that swirling era of everything happening at once. I mean, like you said, she is newly postpartum. When you're postpartum, I read, and now I'm experiencing, it is literally the largest hormone dump you will ever experience in your life. It is like 10 times, 100 times more than you would experience ever. So I can't imagine her being newly postpartum, having a partner that is unsupportive, having the paparazzi hound her everywhere she goes, having an unsupportive family, and not having any sort of outlet or safe place, and then
Right,
getting
and
pregnant quickly after that, a second time, and having it all repeat, and then getting a divorce. So
right.
I can't imagine this. I would want to say it's a storm of chaos going on in her life.
It was a storm because you add to that her trying to rehabilitate herself and going in and out of treatment a couple times also in 2007 before the divorce was finalized and before the record was released. Meanwhile, also trying to perform at these promotional concerts that she was doing at the House of Blues. So she had so much going on. And for me, I know it would be very hard to concentrate on any one of those items and take care of myself. So
Take care of
it's
yourself.
all making sense now.
And
Can't blame
two
her.
babies.
Right. Taking care of yourself, 2 babies.
And a husband, because that was her third baby.
Right. As well as having demands that divorce proceedings are going to bring about.
So she's going through this breakdown of her marriage.
Mm-hmm.
She's been served papers to get divorced to K-Fed. The media is hounding her. They're portraying her as an unfit mother. Every misstep she make is a headline. I specifically remember this one moment where, as she explains it later on, she puts Sean Preston on her lap while she's in the front seat of the car because the paparazzi
never
is
forget
surrounding
it.
her. The baby is terrified. She's terrified, and she starts driving. Now, obviously, there's no excuse to drive with an infant unsecured in a moving vehicle, but she didn't know what to do. She was probably scared for her life, completely not in the right headspace, and that happened, and clearly the media ran with it. And then another time, she's seen almost breaking her ankle because she's wearing her wedges that she's so known for wearing. She wears a lot of wedges and flip-flops. But she basically falls off a curb or like twists her ankle off a curb wearing wedges, holding one of the boys. I don't remember which one it was. And she catches him as he's in her arms, but she almost falls and his head jerks. And of course, paparazzi's there to capture the shot right as the baby's head looks like it's going to snap off its neck. And it's just like, this girl can't win. She can't get a moment to collect herself. She can't get a moment to just breathe and keep her children safe.
And that's why she unfortunately lost custody to Kevin. And by 2008, there's big trauma of her refusing to relinquish custody to K-Fed's representatives. And then she was finally institutionalized at the ever iconic Cedars-Sinai.
Wait. We can't forget probably one of the most talked about moments of 2007 in Britney Spears' life and career.
Let us
and
not
in the
glaze
media.
over this.
Britney drives to a salon in some random shopping center, wants to get her hair done. The hairstylist doesn't want to do what she requests, which is to shave her head. So she grabs the hair clippers on her own, takes off the guard, shaves her head down to the skin. And those images will live rent-free in my head forever.
I will never forget logging onto my computer. And I don't know if it was Facebook or Perez Hilton or where I first saw those pictures, but I very much remember being in my dorm room at night, seeing that happened. And it kind of, I should not have turned my back on her, but it kind of made me lose a little faith in her. Yet again, like I remember feeling disappointed. And that is such like a loud cry of the times too. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, what is going on with her? She needs help. We have to rally around her and get her help. It was, you know, what a psycho child star. What is going on? And I can't say that I didn't like stop listening to her music or anything like that, but like it was that idea of the like a fandom was kind of just
it turned on her,
dropping a little bit. It did, and I think society really dropped the ball. She needed help, but I mean, at least like I said, she was institutionalized at Cedars soon after. But still,
I mean, we could definitely look at it in hindsight as a cry for help. She
Mhm.
needed some support from almost anyone.
Mhm.
And she did have some bad actors come into her circle and take advantage of that. But like you said, she became really the butt of jokes. Talk show hosts were
Mhm.
making fun of her. Perez Hilton, you just mentioned him. I remember going on his website all the time. He really was a mean guy. And he would post what he called death watches, basically countdowns to when do you think Britney Spears is going to die?
Mm.
And
Instead of being like, if she doesn't get help, she's gonna die. It's let's do a countdown. Like that
right.
is so.
He
Can you
really took
imagine?
advantage of her low point. And we
Right.
all watched her disintegrate before our eyes.
What a helpless feeling you would have being. And this reminds me of the song Lucky, honestly. So maybe this all started even way before this because Lucky is on Oops. But it reminds me of that song Lucky, where it's like, you have everything in the world. You're like
Mhm.
one of the biggest, especially at that time, probably one of the most famous people in the world, huge career, money, fame, but yet no one's there to save you. No one's there to help you when you are at your lowest.
Mhm.
And no one believes you, by the way, when you're telling them what happened, because the person that you were in a relationship with when you were a teenager in early 20s is kind of winning on this side of things and being able to sweep what was happening under the rug, which again, we are getting to that really. Oh, I don't want to trivialize it. What do we call it? Bombshell. It is the
Mhm.
bombshell. And it makes everything make sense, but we didn't know for over 20 years
Well,
what was
and
going on.
you mentioned that there was no one there to help her, but
Mhm.
we didn't know that at the time. We thought
No.
we were under the impression, the public, that her father and her family were helping her because
Right, right, right,
after she
right.
was institutionalized, she had 2 psychiatric holds, she was forcibly hospitalized, she had a 5150, that's where we all learned what that
Mhm.
was.
True.
Her father, Jamie Spears, stepped in, and that's when that 13-year conservatorship began. He took control,
Mhm.
and it was meant to be temporary, but it wasn't. She lost legal control of her finances, her career, her personal decisions. She wasn't allowed to remove her IUD. It just was like she was property instead of a person. She lost her personhood, and we
She
had
really
no
did.
idea that was happening.
No, I mean, you barely even understand these things because they're usually so short term. Like when somebody is receiving treatment or whatever, and then they're fine, right? This was not that. And I think it was like from every angle that there was a conservatorship because I think there's like two different kinds. And so this was just like coming from all of these angles. But of course, nobody was stopping her from releasing another album, Circus, which is another tour that I saw her on.
Love it.
And it was a great album, but it's like, should she have been doing that at this time? Probably not. She should have taken a year or two to really get herself back together, but I don't think she was allowed. She didn't have access to her money. These people are making money off her having a conservatorship underneath them. And that's why she was pushed to keep working and get out the music and go tour.
Well, and you bring up a good point, something that has been brought up over the years as the
Mhm.
Free Britney movement, got the ball rolling on things. And we'll get into the Free Britney movement in a moment. But she
Mhm.
had tours, multiple tours. She had albums come out. She had a Vegas
Yep.
residency. How was she allowed to do all of these very intricate things, these heavy business deals? How was she able to record albums? How was she able to remember choreography for hours long performances? Yet she wasn't allowed to manage her own finances or get behind the wheel of a car and drive.
You
How?
like I could feel the difference between all three times I've seen Britney, the third and final being Las Vegas in 2015. And it did. It felt like the spark was like not there. Like it was a fun show and she did a great job, of course, but like you could just feel that like was this because she was honoring her kind of like legacy career, or was it because she had to do this and didn't have a lot of choice? And it did feel weird being there because the Free Britney movement had really taken off by that point, and we were aware of stuff that was going on, just maybe some not to the extent, and we were still learning about it,
Mhm.
especially in the public.
Well-
So going felt a little weird, and watching it, like, I was definitely thinking about these things going,
Well, and I think as fans, we didn't really know the full extent of everything that was going on. And even though there was the beginnings of the Free Britney movement, it sort of started as this like grassroots campaign where we thought, is it based on rumors? Is it based on speculation? Are we wearing tinfoil hats? Why would her father take advantage of her?
exactly.
And we saw
Exactly.
this shell of a person on stage, and we assumed incorrectly that maybe she just couldn't handle
Or maybe she's
things.
medicated.
Right. Well,
Like,
and that's what it turns out to be, that she was overly medicated on lithium and other things and being punished with medications, medically managed, when she would speak out and want to see her children or want to have time to herself or have a little bit of extra spending money. She was given like an allowance weekly that was insignificant compared to the millions of dollars she's made over her lifetime. And so outwardly, it looked like there was this woman falling apart and her family was holding her up and keeping her going, when really they were the ones holding her down. And how would we have known, So don't blame yourself, or no one else should be upset that they went to go see her at these tours, because we didn't know.
Right. And as far as you knew, you were supporting
Right.
the artist. And I mean, having a residency in Vegas is, I don't want to say like a big deal, but like it kind of is. It's this legacy idea. You don't have to travel around. You get to showcase your career, songs you know and love. Like it's kind of like those Vegas residency shows kind of are like a love letter to your fans and your career. And you go to have fun and be nostalgic with the music, through the music.
You really have to be an established artist to have a residency. I'm even thinking of like Bruno Mars, who famously has a residency right now, but we know he's doing it because he's massively in debt. Have you heard that?
I feel like a lot of stars get to that point by the time they get to Vegas too. So it's not shocking to hear that. But yes, sometimes it can be a good money grab. Again, it's not going to be as expensive to rent something in Las Vegas and live there part-time during the week while you have shows or whatever, and then go home to where home is, as opposed to funding a tour that's worldwide is very, 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 very expensive. So it makes sense why stars that might be hurting for money could lean towards that kind of deal. Plus, Vegas pulls in a lot of people who are ready to spend money. So, and go to shows. Like, it's part of what you do in Vegas. So I could totally see that. But Britney's I also thought though, maybe a little premature. I'm like, wait, are we that old now? I mean, again, this is 2015. So
That's 10 years ago.
What? She's like 34 years old, 33.
We were still the relevant generation as millennials.
Right. And yes, she was a little older than us as a very young Gen X / very, very, very old millennial. I think she was born in 81, December though. So it's like she could have been like 34, 33 by the time
she's a
like, I saw her. So yeah. So she would felt, she's young. Again, not to always bring up Taylor Swift, but for context, Taylor Swift is about to be 36 years old in December. So when you look at it that way, you're going, she already has a residency. Britney, like, are we hanging up whatever? Like, I don't know, but maybe it doesn't mean that as much, but I wondered at the time, but
I could see why you would have those thoughts, but I think it was sort of understood or explained as, well, look at the troubles she's experienced within the last decade. She had, the head shaving incident, the incident where she attacked the paparazzi with the umbrella. She had that whole unraveling. She ended up hospitalized. Her father took the reins of control of everything. And she's sort of getting things back on track. And this could be a time of stability for her. And I think that's how it was presented. Of yes, she's doing a Vegas residency, but it's stable. She gets to clock in and clock out. It's not something that she could unravel from again. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And I think you make great sense. And again, a bit of a love letter because it had been such a
Mhm.
long time through her career by that point. But then by 2019, she goes on hiatus from that.
She disappeared from
And
Instagram.
she disappears from Instagram. And then we get a new co-conservator on her estate, Andrew Wallet. And then the conservatorship just sorts to kind of unravel throughout this time. Plus, of course, there's a literal global pandemic. And then by 2021, after 13 super, super long years, we finally get the end of the conservatorship. Finally. But it's not that simple because then people are starting to kind of question her engagement to this longtime boyfriend, Sam. And they kind of questioned the wedding when it happened too.
It was
So
a
we
weird
still
wedding,
ha-
if
it
we're
was
being
a
honest.
it was a weird wedding. I am dying to know what was going on because I feel like there was a certain protection that was going on during that time. But
Well, what was weird were the images that came out from it.
right,
They
the
looked
pictures were
photoshopped,
weird.
and
Yes.
everyone that was in attendance wouldn't talk about it, or they like had a script if they did talk about it on how they described it. So even Paris, Selena Gomez, who else? A lot of big names attended, but it didn't
There
look like
were.
an actual ceremony or party happened. It looked like a photo shoot. And then it
It
looked like
was
people were photoshopped in.
It was a weird room too.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm wondering about this like protection piece of it because of like the conservatorship or maybe something to deal with that because people do really question Sam a lot. And unfortunately, she does endure a miscarriage after a few months or so she announces with Sam. So yet again, going through a lot.
Right. And then she started posting erratically on social media again. You know, she's known for her emoji use or overuse, but those started being looked at as, are they cryptic messages? That's what people were wondering.
Right. Because chaos from before is still following her. Like her
Mhm.
ex-husband, if you can call him that, of 55 hours, even tried to crash
I
this
heard
wedding
about
and was
that.
arrested. So it's just like this girl cannot get a break, even when the conservatorship is ending or has ended. I mean, again, we really don't know too much. There is a interesting documentary from 2021 that gives a lot more information than we probably really have, or at least things that are confirmed. But like, it's still a very confusing time as a fan. Like, what can we support? What should we not be supporting? I remember feeling very confused.
Well, and we see that confusion in the media as well. And I feel like I bring up the media a lot, but
Mhm.
really what the tabloids and what the newspapers put out is what the general public uses to inform their opinions, right? And
That's
at
right.
this time, I feel like the media was half supportive and half exploitative. There were some
Mhm.
people that were writing articles in support of Britney and wanting her to get help and grateful for the conservatorship ending, and others were exploiting these erratic moments in her life and using them for a tabloid fodder.
Honestly, all of that is the reason why I was so excited for her book, The Woman in Me,
Mhm.
which, by the way, was one of the largest book deals ever made, which was 15 million. That happened also in 2022, but the book didn't come out till October 2023. But all those reasons you listed made me really look forward to Britney's perspective,
Mhm.
Britney's voice. What does Britney want to know? That's why I love that the Kardashians are producers on their show because I can understand they're telling their story in their way, real, fake, good, bad, ugly. They're telling their story in their way. I can appreciate and understand that, right? That's what I wanted to get from the book of like, what happened?
Mhm.
What, please? And not that she owed us anything, but I was so grateful that something was going to come out in her voice. And boy, don't we get a bombshell in
Well,
that book.
okay, we got a couple of bombshells, but
Yep.
I did read it. I borrowed it from the library. I actually
Mhm.
listened to the audiobook. She only read the introduction And then
That's
Michelle
right.
Williams narrated the rest of the book. I
Yep.
was also excited for her to have a moment to reclaim her voice. And I wanted to know whether or not everything she had experienced was as it was portrayed in the media, or at least what came to light.
Hmm.
But I don't think she wrote it, even though I assume as a celebrity, when you put out a memoir, you're working with a ghostwriter. I don't
Absolutely.
think she's behind a lot of the stories. Like, I don't think she had as much input as we're led to believe, in my opinion.
And is that her way by not narrating it of telling
Len,
us that? Like,
yeah,
this is not my voice. I'm going to let somebody else read it. Here's my letter. I'm grateful that a book is coming out and I support it because it's delivering this bombshell that everybody needs to know that has been covered up for 20 years, over 20 years, which was that she and Justin Timberlake did have a pregnancy and terminate it. This decision basically destroyed her because she wanted to keep it, but he was more than awful about the whole thing, more than just keeping it a secret,
there
but
was a lot of pressure for her to make the decision she made.
and it's from probably her camp too, because it's been a while since I read the book, but his camp as well, because he kind of acted like he didn't want it. Or maybe they were just so young, they were getting pressure that made them not want it or him. But so they did terminate that pregnancy. And this is why it makes so much sense that this chaos starts happening around 2004, because not only did this really traumatic thing happen to her, right or wrong in terms of life, like whether or not she should have parented or anything like that. This is trauma. And, she's kind of then left behind by this guy who was essentially saying he didn't want the pregnancy, terminate. She terminates, and then they break up and she gets a music video about her cheating. And then she releases that song Every Time. By the way, we sort of glazed over that when we were talking about Cry Me a River.
It was a song that she's very proud of.
Oh, and it's a beautiful, really kind of
Ballad?
haunting song, And so she delivers that song, which is not tea or dirty in any way, which Cry Me a River kind of was. And so was the music video with the actress that he picked to play the girl, which just so happened to be blonde and kind of looked like Britney. So on top of going through all that, that's what she gets. And then, of course, she starts to unravel, get chaotic, K-fed, the kids are very triggering when you terminate a pregnancy. Future kids can be very triggering to that trauma. Again, whether it was the right decision for you or not, it can be very triggering. And so all of this just started to click when people who were following her during her earlier career started to question the unraveling. You start to understand, oh my gosh, she was going through so much and rarely got help. And then when she did try to get help, she was constantly in and out of the rehab because she never stopped the touring. She never really stopped the music for very long. I mean,
Wait,
the period
did she
between
just quote her? Stop the music. Sorry.
Oh, not on purpose. Not on purpose. But you know what? Let's go with pun intended, even though it wasn't. But I love it. But it's just started to make everything make a little more sense that she never truly got the help for probably a myriad of different reasons, both good and overlooked, if you will. She never got that help. Like, again, leaving treatment to put out another album. Really, we only have from like 2004 through like 6 or 7 as like the longest stint between albums right there. So she was touring in between those as well. So she never really stopped much of anything. Even when she didn't have an album that was coming out, she was touring old ones or whatever. So it just was a lot, and she never got that time she needed, which is really sad, and we still, I don't know that we'll ever get our Britney back because of everything she also went through trauma-wise from the conservatorship.
Britney really is a cautionary tale of what happens when someone gets famous and how the public consumes them as a product, basically.
Yeah,
And
commodity.
So Her story really did expose a lot of the systemic abuse in conservatorships. It's
Mhm.
done a lot to shed light on what's going on in the world today. I mean, we see it with like Wendy Williams is also under a conservatorship currently. We don't know all the details about that, but
Mhm.
it did shed light on that. Now that she's free, I feel like her story still is ongoing. She may be free, but she's still pretty vulnerable. And
That's what it is. I feel like she's in a more of a healing era, and maybe maybe we'll get like a Pam Anderson
I hope,
moment.
I
I
hope,
hope so. I love you for knowing exactly what I meant by me saying that as
well,
well.
she had a revitalization.
Yeah.
She's been reborn in this new phase of her life. And I'm talking about Pam Anderson.
Mhm. Mhm.
She's really come into her own and embraced this moment of her life. And I hope that as Britney's free and no longer under conservatorship, us as the public can ask ourselves, are we observing? Are we consuming her? How can we not play into what happened
Mhm.
in those earlier years? How do we not fall into those same steps? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. It really is a cautionary tale, and it's sad that that's currently what her legacy is, because that is the bulk of it. That was 13 years of all of that, and we got, like, I mean, if you wanna count Mickey Mouse Club, sure, but if you really wanna talk about, like, her solo career, like, 98 till about 2003, we got, like, 5 years before, like, all of this trauma was really happening, or I should say 2002, because I think it was March 2002 when they broke up. So we got like what, like 4 years, not even, of Britney kind of being in the light the way that she probably wanted to, or it was at least starting to be able to do that, like we talked about. And then all of that happened.
So during our deep dives, we've covered Lindsay,
Mhm.
Paris, and now Britney, the holy trinity as we deemed them back in Lindsay's deep dive of the early 2000s. We've seen, and I bring them up because yes, they were friends or friendly or frenemies, whatever they were, and they were photographed in that iconic photo of the three of them, and that was really what sparked this
Which
3 episode.
go to our Instagram and see it. Have we posted it yet? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, we have. But I'm bringing them up because look at Lindsay. She
Mhm.
had those really dark years where we weren't sure if we were ever going to get Lindsay Lohan as we knew her back,
And we
but we
did.
did. And she's
Mhm.
even better than she was before. She's
I was gonna
so
say that, but then
much,
I felt like, "Oh my gosh, should I
I,
say that?"
I don't mean it in a way of better, like looking better. She's just better.
She came out on top.
She came out on top. She's in a place where she feels content with life and happy, and she's doing what she loves, not because anybody else is telling her to do it. You know what I mean?
I really feel like people thought they were gonna get that as soon as Britney's conservatorship ended, but
But
it's
they
like,
didn't give
no,
time or space for healing.
the
And
healing has to happen. Exactly.
and then we have Paris. Speaking of healing, we just talked about her last week, and we did see her have her own unraveling in the early 2000s. She did
Mhm.
bounce back a little faster than Lindsay and Britney,
Mhm.
but it took 20 years, 20 plus years to fully understand and come out with what was happening in her life and why things happened. And now she's finally taken a stance. And not that she needed to, not that she needed to tell us, not that she needed to take a stance, but she's
Mhm.
choosing to in her own time and with her own voice to make a stand against what's happening in those schools, those scary schools where they're taking advantage and abusing children. So I really hope that when the time's right, because I really believe that timing is everything, when the time's right, that Britney also gets her moment in the sun of being reborn, of being reviving her career, if that's what she wants. And if not, I hope she just is happy and healthy wherever she is.
I do wanna point out that, yes, she did get divorced from Sam, who she married in that kind of strange wedding situation where Natalie and I were talking about funky photos with really big names attending, but it looked like a photo shoot. It was just kind of odd. People were questioning a lot. She did end up getting divorced last year in 2024 from him. I hope that her being single right now is going to allow her that space to remember and find who Britney is. Because I think since a very young age, she's been told who she is and was. And then especially during the conservatorship, she really didn't have much autonomy.
She wasn't
at
even
all
allowed to
in
know who she
even
was.
what she was choosing to do for work. She was not allowed. Exactly. So hopefully being divorced, even though that's not great, and I'm sure it was painful to have a third divorce, that at least maybe we can get her that space. And we really spent a little bit quiet on the Britney front recently, but she's always kind of getting called out on the media for dance videos
That's what I
and
was
stuff
going to
like
say.
that.
It's funny that you say it's been quiet on the Britney front because literally before we started recording, I Googled her because I wanted to see what was in the news to see if we needed to include it. 8 hours ago, 13 minutes ago, Britney shows off her dance moves in not safe for work video. Britney grabs her bum and boobs in plunging sheer lingerie. People cannot stop writing about her. Leave Britney alone.
Britney
As
Spears.
that was Chris Crocker famously said in the early 2000s.
Iconic moment and line from, you said his name, but the
Chris
Leave
Crocker.
Britney Alone, Chris Crocker. The Leave Britney Alone is absolutely iconic, and these headlines won't. Here's another one from today. I saw it right before we were recording as well. The Britney Spears smacks butt, dances in sheer bodysuit.
Let her.
Britney Spears rubs her chest and smacks her rear while dancing in sheer thong. It is a bit of an interesting choice, but also, yes, leave Britney alone. But also, who is posting these for her? You know, she's not doing it. So who's filming and posting these? I don't know. And if it's her for sure, then you know what? Go off. But that's the only thing that hasn't changed since the conservatorship that makes me feel like, what is that? Why are we still, you know what I mean? Why are we still
I
doing
totally know what you
funky
mean.
dances?
And I think that I know what you mean. And I actually had to unfollow her a couple years ago after she continuously posted erratic things because I just felt like I didn't want to feed into or consume posts from someone who was not mentally well. And I don't know if she's the one posting. I don't know if someone else is posting, but I hope that whoever it is at least, I don't know, comes to terms with maybe this isn't the right thing to post because it doesn't, not that she can't make videos like that, but I think it continues to get these headlines posted when she's so much more than twirling in a see-through lingerie bodysuit. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? I want to know about Britney and the music she's making or the book that she may have written or at least approved of. She's so much more than these videos. And this is what the tabloids make her out to be. They boil her down to these videos. And I don't like that.
Right. That's what they keep boiling it down to. And what's also interesting is there is a biopic that we have yet to look forward to. And the speculation just keeps coming about who's going to play Britney Spears.
I keep seeing Addison Rae being in the forefront, or at least she's making a case for it. She has dyed her hair blonde and she's out and about getting photographed on pap walks dressed in Britney type clothing.
Yep. I mean, that's kind of how you do it. You know what I mean?
She's
You have to
petitioning
make the public,
for the role.
That's exactly what she's doing. I've heard Tate McRae as well, but I just don't agree with it. I mean, a lot of Gen Z is like, yeah. I don't see Tate. This
look, she
most
can
recent
dance,
picture,
but that's not. She doesn't have the essence of Britney. She's her own.
No,
her
and
own.
That's kind of what makes it. Kind of makes me question though, what the casting will be because it's probably going to be, a 20-something Gen Zer playing Britney, and it's but do you know Britney? Do you know Britney?
Do you know Britney? Probably not, but we need that person to capture her in the height of her career, so it may be all we get.
I just hope that they do a really excellent casting job. And I am going to kind of pay attention a little bit more to Addison Rae because I keep hearing about it. And there's another headline right in front of my face right now. And there is a kind of Britney circa 2004 vibe to this picture that
I'm looking at it.
You're looking at it?
Yeah.
And so there's a vibe there. I could see it. So we'll see.
Read
I'm
it.
not saying
it says.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were going to read it. It just says Addison Rae's bikini top photo has fans thinking she's Britney Spears. So she's really playing into it.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking to me, not for the recording.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why it didn't register to me to read that out loud when you said
I'm all being bossy. Read it. I just meant I know what it says.
This is how much it feels like Natalie and I are on the phone in these episodes talking to each other, because I almost even forget a lot of the time that we're talking about this that you guys are going to be listening to. So anyways, stay tuned in for our case coverage on Thursday, and we'll be back with another episode of Unscripted next week on Monday.
And, we might have some more deep dives coming your way. You heard us mention a few on our list, so stay tuned.
Comment who you want us to deep dive on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram at the Murder Diaries Pod. Follow us on YouTube so we can build that platform and give you guys more video content. And thanks for being here. Bye.
Picture this. And honestly, you probably don't have to try too hard to picture it because I'm pretty sure we have all been here, but you're tired, it's midweek, you're hungry, it's getting late, and you're trying to figure out what the heck's for dinner. You have no idea what that is, but what you do know is that you want a home-cooked meal. This is where HelloFresh comes in, because HelloFresh makes cooking, honestly, a little too easy. You get to choose from 80 plus meals every month with flavors from around the world, including Vietnamese, Moroccan, Caribbean, you name it, HelloFresh has got it. What I also love about HelloFresh is that they might be introducing you to an ingredient that you haven't worked with before, but that ingredient, like everything else for your HelloFresh meal, is going to be pre-portioned, ready to go for your cooking experience. Honestly, at this point, I have made so many HelloFresh meals in my day, I probably couldn't pick a favorite, but I'm telling you, anything with their chicken is solid. There's something extra special about their chicken. I love their Frank's Red Hot chicken recipe. I made their chicken pot pie casserole the other night. We loved it. You just can't go wrong with HelloFresh. I am telling you right now. Go to HelloFresh.com/diaries10fm now to get 10 free meals plus a free NutriBullet Ultra Plus 2-in-1 compact kitchen system, which is a $189.99 value on your third box. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Disclaimer, must order the third box by May 31st, 2026.
The right window treatments change everything. Your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 five-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 50% off with minimum purchase, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.